Hello, and welcome to another deep dive into leadership. And today we're joined by Andrea Simon of Simon Associates, management consultants and culture change experts. Now, Andrea, I've got to ask, uh, in a couple sentences, tell us what you do, but please let me know what a culture change expert is.
Mike, thank you for the introduction and the opportunity. I am trained as a cultural anthropologist, and when I launched my business, it's now 23 years ago, my PR guy said to me, "Well, you're a corporate anthropologist that helps companies change." And I said, "Bingo, that's my elevator speech, and that's what I am, that's what I do." I spent a decade in academics. I was a tenured professor, and then I spent 20 years in industry. Each of the organizations I was with, savings bank, a commercial bank, healthcare, were all stuck or stalled, and the environments they were in were changing. And so what I developed was an approach to using anthropological methodologies to develop culture change transformation methodologies. And part of it is just knowing that people hate to change. And so if they're going to, and they don't even know what they do all day. Most people follow the habits, get the work done, and then all of a sudden everything stops or changes. And they're not quite sure, how come this doesn't work anymore? And so we help them by looking outside in instead of inside out. All of a sudden things get, oh, that's the way we're doing it. I said, yeah, and it's not working, or it could work better, or how do we improve it? And so that's my approach. And I've really honed the skills of helping people. And I say these words intentionally: see, feel, and think in new ways, because you have to see it or you won't know what it is. You have to feel it because that's how you decide. And then you think about it. And then you begin to say, oh, that's what I have to do. Does that help?
It does. It does. It actually reminds me of the title of PJ Carell, Princeton basketball coach bio, which was Think, See, Do.
Yes.
So very similar in that
Yep.
regard.
Well, he was
That,
right. I mean, if you don't think, yeah, well, you can think, see, do. The brain has more eye nerves than anything else. So the eyes are really where, if you can see it, then you can be it. And it makes it much easier. And if you can't see it, you make it up.
well, it sounds like fascinating. I've got a boatload of questions, but let's start with one. What is your why? Why do you do what you do?
It's a wonderful question, and I'm hearing it more and more today. My passion and my purpose is in helping people and organizations see the world through a fresh lens. What I really love to do is take people exploring. And what happens is when you get stuck in very familiar patterns as an individual or part of a group of people or a company, you're so happy not seeing anything new that my why is I'm going to help you see what's all around you. And then you're going to begin to understand that the way you see it was the way it was, but may not be the way you're going to have to be in the future. In my book, On the Brink, there are 8 case studies, 6 of which came from Vistage. And I'm a big fan of the Vistage members. And they all got a little stuck or stalled. And then my why came, can I help? And that becomes a great way to open a door. And I love to go through them.
Okay. Now, you've touched on it a bit with that answer, but let me ask directly, can you crystallize what are the benefits a client gets from working with you?
You know, my job is to help you do something you are not usually doing. So I'll give you 3 or 4 things that I typically have a client of mine do. First, we go spend a day in the life of their customer. We want to go see it from their perspective. And to be very, granular about it, we literally go and spend a day in the life of a customer together, or they can do it on their own. And it's very commonly done. If you want to understand how they're really using that tool you devised for them, or really understand how they're making decisions about whatever it is that you do, even the tax returns that you prepare, you got to go spend time with them. So the first thing we do is open up the world the way it is, as opposed to the way you've imagined it. The second thing that we do is we listen to the stories. And if people are going to be transformed, they have to hear what's actually being thought by people who they're helping. So we do lots of storytelling and listening. And we listen to hear Remember, when I speak, you don't really hear what I'm saying. You're already processing it through your own story. And so I try to get them to open their minds to listen to what people are saying and hear it in a different fashion. So those are the two. The first we do is we spend a day in the life, and the second one we listen to stories and we begin to hear. And the third is we often spend time doing very simple things like going out with our own sales force to watch the sales process and to listen what clients are saying as opposed to what the salespeople are trying to do. And it's a different way of capturing that reality that the sale is coming or not coming, not because exactly what the salesperson did, but what the customer turned it into. And they do turn it into something. And so my job is to help them, creatively see things in a way that are going to help them take them to the next stage. And often, not always, what comes out of it is a new strategy and also the execution plan to get there. And so when they hire an anthropologist, the first thing we do is go exploring. Second thing we do, we go listening. Third thing we do is we go out with our own folks and watch what's actually happening. And then we begin to think about what's our strategy? Is it the right one? When you really realize what it's actually doing. And then how do you turn a strategy, a new one, into an execution? Oh my goodness. Sounds so wonderful, exciting, new. Nobody knows what they're doing to do it. So we change behavior. And so those are the kinds of things that my why leads to. My job for a client is to help them keep growing. And often they've stuck and they don't know where the next client's coming from. And when things are changing, they get very unsettled. And the times they are changing.
And I guess it makes sense as an anthropologist, you'd look at the whole system, the whole relationship, if you will, and spend as much time focused on what the customer of your client is going through and experiencing. And certainly, all good things come from listening to your customer more.
Yeah.
So
But
that
I think
that
the
focus
hardest
really
part,
resonates.
yeah,
Yep.
you're right. The hardest part is that you think you hear what the customer is saying. I'll give you an illustration. At a group I was doing in Chicago, a sales manager came and told us about sitting with his sales force, and they were selling a product to a client. And the client looked like they were going to buy it. But the client kept saying, "What if? Could you? Have you thought about?" And he said to me, "Oh my gosh, I never heard any of his what ifs." And I said, that's where all the opportunity was. He said, yeah, that's all the revenue was there. Not in what we sold, but all the opportunities we had to help. And that's something that I can see from the outside because he was so close to it from the inside that he didn't know what he didn't know. So it becomes it's a deeper understanding of corporate culture and how to shape it to support their long-term success by really listening and seeing what customers are doing. You're smiling.
Am because I love the perspective in terms of getting clients to learn from their customers. But let me ask it a different way. What are one or two things you've learned from your clients over time?
It's a great question. First, I need to be practical, not abstract. I can know a lot, but what's the point? And being a consultant is very tricky because you need to provide wisdom in teaspoons full. Too much too soon, and they roll their eyes. They're happy you're there, but don't pay any attention. And I need to be extremely foundation focused on which are the things that are most important to make a transformation so that they can get some practical strategies for growth. And if we're going to foster innovation and enhance employee engagement or any of the things we want, start with a step at a time. You might have a picture of the destination, what you would like it to become, but you can't get there turning a battleship with an oar. So one of my most humbling experiences was when a client said, Andy, you know a lot, but I can't follow you. At which point it was a smart guy. I said, okay, let's start again. Give me a small step you can take to move forward. And then we began to move forward every week, and we began to decompress every week and redirect when it was necessary. So I learned a lot about humility. You don't need to have the answers. You need to have a process for helping other people discover the answers. It's not about me, it's about them.
Thank you. Now, everything we read today is about culture.
Yes.
So you're right in the middle of all that. And if I'm a CEO for a smaller mid-sized business, what am I seeing? What are the characteristics of my business that would lead me to think that I should reach out to somebody like you?
Small business people, mid-sized companies, are wonderful. They're full of creative ideas. They're creators. They had an observation they want to turn into an innovation, a business, and we often work to help them do just that. But I often think that they get stuck in the center lane, if you can understand the metaphor. They pull out real fast and fine. They get going. They move into the center lane, and then they're just plodding along. And so the question is, if you're growing, you may not need us at all. But if you're stalling, then why this great idea that brought an innovative solution to the market is ready for some rethinking, or at least fine tuning, or reflecting. I mean, sometimes, particularly entrepreneurs, but small business owners, and they're not the same, find themselves in a habit that's taking them down a path that might have gone someplace, but often the customer base has moved away. And next thing they know, they're still going down that line and they're in the middle lane, not going anywhere too fast or and too fresh. There's something missing that we need to add to the mix. And I do admire, I'm married to a serial entrepreneur, and several of his business grew quite large, but none of them started out there. And they all start out and need a hand to get out of the starting gate. And I don't want to play too many metaphors, but I often think they're very fast horses waiting in the starting gate for the gate to open and then they can run,
Mhm.
but they're not quite ready to run yet. And nobody's going to stop them until they get the gate open. But it is an interesting place to be. Mid-market clients have revenue coming. That's good news and also a challenge. And they're ready for a transformation to scale. And scaling is a very scary word. I worked with a $10 million company who wanted to be 100 million, but it was a family firm, and everybody was family. And it reached the point where I said, you can't grow this with your family. You need professional managers, you need processes, you need different kinds of sales processes, different ways of marketing. Everything that your family did to get you to 10 million may not be scalable to 100 million. And that word scale, well, what do you mean by scale? I said, well, the things you do to get to 10 million go up geometrically, not arithmetically, to get to 100 million. And so you need different processes and different ways of using technology and different uses of outside and inside staffing. It was a whole different mindset to take the culture to the next stage in a firm that's, now family firms do fine sometimes, but you got to make sure that the family isn't both an asset and a liability going in. And so I love mid-market. They have enough revenue coming through that they can start to invest, but not necessarily a good idea of what to put the money into.
Okay, very good. And I love the experience you shared in terms of what the companies are going through when they try to scale, because pretty much every CEO I talk to would love to scale, and that's certainly one of the challenges they have. Now, it was also great looking at your background and seeing your wealth of experience that you're also a Vistage speaker.
Mhm.
Could you share with us some of the lessons you've learned working with Vistage members in the groups that you've been able to speak to?
I've done 500 Vistage talks, tech
Wow.
talks, and I have sampled good chairs and great groups of people. And a couple of things that I admire about the Vistage culture, the model, it's very much a peer-to-peer. And it's about people helping each other, listening to each other, and having challenges that are not unique. And even though they're non-competitors, they begin to realize that my challenge with attracting and retaining staff is the same as theirs. And this is what they're doing, and that's working. Maybe I should adopt it. So there's lots of that going on. The second thing is that the Vistage folks come ready to listen and learn. And I admire the fact that they come prepared. It doesn't matter what kind of group and how big it is. What they tend to do is be aware that the model is designed to give them wisdom in a way that they can apply it. The third thing I worry about is that they go away excited and go back to their offices and their staff duck under the table with vistage fatigue. And vistage fatigue, I know you're smiling, but that's true. Now the question is, how do we prepare them or support them so they go back and they can be implementers of some big ideas? I think about dreaming big. The kind of work I typically do is blue ocean strategy or cultural innovation or innovation and change. And when you are taking a big idea you know a little bit about and trying to now apply it, it requires sometimes a little help from someone like myself or somebody else. But you can't become a subject matter expert in 3 hours. But you can know there's something here I need to apply. And so I admire their openness. Their questions are great. And the follow-up questions, I often get emails after the event. Can you clarify for this? How did you do that? They read my book or my books, and sometimes they come back with questions about it. And I just think it's a very rich learning environment. And I get excited about Vistage Talks. They expand my understanding of what businesses are going through. And I don't think you can really understand that without being out there. So it gives me a vehicle for doing just that. Is that a fan?
Yes, all right. Great perspective. And I've got to also ask, since you describe yourself as an anthropologist, how do you want to be remembered?
The legacy is so interesting. If I can help people do something they don't like to do, change, I'd be a very happy lady. Because the brain hates me. The oldest reptilian part of the brain hijacks ideas. So my challenge is, how do I help others do things they have to do that they actually fear? I'm not a lion around the bend who's going to eat them. And so as I think about the work I've done, I mean, 500 Vistage Talks is no small amount, but also all kinds of other speaking engagements, workshops, and so forth. At the end of the day, I'm still that anthropologist in the classroom, wanting to help them see, feel, and think in new ways. And if people say to me, man, did you help me open my mind to what was going well or not? That's just more than enough gifting that I can get back from the kind of experiences that I'm hoping to share. And I hope that the gift of giving to others your wisdom with some opportunities to improve what they're doing is just a wonderful legacy.
Wow. Oh, that's great. Now, Andrea, if I did want to reach out to you, I run my business and I realized that I could use some help or would like to just explore your concept a little bit more, what's the best way to reach out and contact you?
Well, LinkedIn has become the biggest directory of everybody. And so certainly my LinkedIn profile and everything else there and the messaging and the emails. My website is simon.associates.net. And my books and other materials are on andysimon.com, and that's ANDI Simon.com. And you can Google me. I come up on the front page of Google for corporate anthropologists and culture change experts and blue ocean strategists. And I keep working my content marketing to make sure I stay there. So, but I'm delighted to be of help. I like interesting clients who want interesting ways of changing what they're doing.
Wow, just a fascinating career in terms of helping companies change their culture when it's so needed. Thank you for sharing your lessons and your experience with us today.
Mike, thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
Great. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Tetro. I'm an executive coach, and I lead a Vistage peer advisory group. If you'd like to learn more about Simon & Associates and culture change, or more about Vistage and the benefits of a peer advisory group, please reach out. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing you on our next deep dive. Bye for now.
Bye now.